episode 26 of the Sega Deals podcast. I am Sam, your co-host for this week, the Pixel Dude, and virtually to my left, the special guest just announced right now, host this week, we have Dylan Cornelius. Take it away, Dylan.
All right. Well, you've already done the end.
He's flipping mad because he likes Alex Kidd, the Lost Star. Everyone send hate mail because that game's terrible.
I thought I was the host.
No.
I was the host.
I was going to say that 'cause I'm the guest. I'm allowed to say things as the guest.
Full, complete control.
You have to let people, express their views, which I'm still fuming about. But we will.
You expressed them pretty well.
Yeah.
I felt last time.
It hurt.
Well, anyway, I guess I'm the host for this one. So, hey everyone, how's it going? Or should I say, hey Sam, how you doing this week?
Pretty pissed still.
How's that dagger in your heart from where I where I left it with my Alex Kidd the Lost Stars review? Apparently,
I have an Alex Kidd emoji doll, right? Just waiting for a lock of your beard, right? And we'll see what happens then, my friend.
That's a Patreon goal, by the way.
Is it really?
Donate. No, it isn't. I was gonna run with it for a minute, but then I thought, nah, that's okay. But speaking of Patreon, hey, did you know
very nice
that you could support our endeavors here at Sega Does, because you can, to the tune of however many dollars or pounds or whatever you feel like. Just visit patreon.com/Dylan Cornelius, and the way you spell my name is DYLAN CORNELIUS, and you get all sorts of fun, nifty stuff depending on how much you donate. Sometimes we give you drawings of your favorite characters, very cool, from an artist known as Yeti Parade, and I included some examples on the page of her art. And then if you go a bit higher, you will get an option to pick a topic for the show, and we will do it. We will have no choice because we are your patrons. So I think that's right. Well, anyway, tired. It's been a long week.
It's all that Alex Kidd warped your mind.
It's all that Lost Stars, man. I tell you, it's just the greatest. And then if you donate further, I will provide PDF books, which are coming soon, starting with my NES compendium, which is still in the works, still on its way, but free PDFs. Wow. So, you might have to hold on a bit for those, but they are absolutely coming. And once the Nintendo book is done, I'm going to start pumping them out for Sega. So just keep that in mind. So that's my bit of shilling for the week, a bit of self-promotion for the site. And yes, please check it out if you enjoy the podcast or if you enjoy the blog, or both. I really would appreciate it. So, first game this week, Sam. First game. What is it?
I don't know. You're hosting.
Oh, okay. So, sorry, I'm a little rusty in that I've never done this before. Ever. So our first game is Argos no Jujiken, otherwise known as RYGAR.
Oh, yeah.
RYGAR. Did you ever play RYGAR on the NES?
No.
No, you didn't.
I did not.
So I'm assuming if you didn't play it on the NES, you probably didn't play it in the arcade, because the arcade version is not nearly as popular or well regarded as
Mm.
the NES version.
It's funny here in the UK. Now this is going to be really bad 'cause I'm going to try and think of some examples. Uh, but we didn't really get these kind of arcade games. Like we didn't get like Contra, and
Mm.
we didn't get Double Dragon, and we didn't get RYGAR. You know, we didn't get these kind of arcade games. We got like the big arcade games. You know what I mean? Like
Street Fighter 2.
we got Street Fighter 2, we got Outrun. Um, yeah, there you go.
Basically, the games everybody knows, the arcade games everybody knows. What about
literally
like The
the
Simpsons?
games we got Simpsons. We had Simpsons.
Yeah.
We had Turtles. What was the arcade one called? Just called Teenage Mutant Ninja
Yeah,
Turtles.
Turtles, yeah.
You know, we had the big stuff, and then in like I suppose mid 90s we had like the Sega rallies, Virtual Fighters, Virtual Cops. We had a lot of that. I would say more than anything, personally, to me, and I do live in like an arcade seaside town. Um, that was really kind of like personally in my opinion, like the UK's arcade high. As much as like Americans consider arcades as arcades, I'd probably say our arcade high was like around like Sega Rally time and
Okay.
Tekken
Yeah.
and you know like Daytona. I mean, you go down to Skegness Pier now, there is still Sega Rally, Daytona. I think there's a Virtual Cop. Um,
Very Sega heavy then. Yeah.
it's not necessarily Sega heavy, just they are still there. 20 years on, the same machines. There is also
Yeah,
like the Star Wars arcade,
of course. Yeah.
the 97 one. Like Sega Touring Car Championship. I'm trying to think of some off the top of my head. Like House of the Dead 2. You know, there's like 18 wheeler, and it kind of drifted on into like 99, 2000s, and then just really fell off a cliff, basically,
Oh,
after
yeah.
that. Nowadays you walk in there and you got like the new Terminator, the new Mario Kart, um, which is done by Namco, which is it Namco? Am I getting that wrong? I think
Mm,
it's done by Namco.
yeah.
Which is strange. But yeah, so yeah, we didn't really get like Rygar.
It sounds like when you first mentioned like, we didn't get Rygar or Contra or, things like that. I mean, those when I think of those types of games, even though they're developed by Japanese companies, they're very American like mindset.
Yes.
Like that's,
Yes.
very like action,
Yeah.
He-Man,
He-Man.
Conan
Yeah, I was gonna say.
sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, Rygar kind of falls in line with that. And to kind of give a little background on Rygar, so the arcade game is pretty straightforward action platforming. It's not a lot. It's you just progress from left to right, killing enemies,
Hmm.
and then you fight bosses, and that's about it. Um, but the Nintendo version was different, as a lot of Nintendo versions of arcade games were different back in the day. It added like RPG elements, like you could upgrade your weapons, you could get magic and that sort of thing. And if I'm not mistaken, because it has been a while since I played that game, but I believe it was non-linear points too. So
I think
it really, yeah, it really changed a lot from the arcade to the NES. The Master System version is a straight arcade port, and that's wouldn't be a bad thing if the arcade didn't kind of suck. If it wasn't just kind of a bad game. It looks really good. It
yeah.
looks very nice. Very fluid animation, and the character designs are well done.
Hmm.
Um, but my goodness, like I really, really hated how not just how difficult it was, because difficult games are kind of part and parcel for this time, but I really hated how you could die lose all your lives, start the level over, be like, okay, I remember an enemy came up here, here, and here, and they're not there. And you're like, where are they?
Yeah.
And then they're at different places all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can't get comfortable, which some masochist might like. I don't. I like to kind of know where things are going to be,
Yeah.
where, at all times. And
See, I prefer it the other way.
oh, do you?
Yeah.
Okay. So did you enjoy this then? I guess is the
I
question.
did.
Oh, okay.
I must say, I mean, it's not, it's not the Mona Lisa. It's, it's not going to win any awards.
It's not the Citizen Kane of video games there.
It's The Last of Us. Oh, it's amazing. God, give it, kiss its ass. No, it's but I read your review before I played the game, and looking at the screenshots and stuff like that, I thought, oh my god, this looks like a mess. But it actually handles a lot better than it looks, if that makes any sense.
The controls are good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can usually, I mean, these old games, usually, if you can look at them, and from a screenshot, you can tell how much quality, like time, went into a game. Because if they didn't spend any time like making nice, background art or making a nice sprite, they probably didn't spend much time on the music or the gameplay either.
Right.
Um,
Very true.
it's not like nowadays with a big 3D world. You take a screenshot, you might just be in the corner of a building, and it might just look, naff because you're in a corner of a building. But with
Right.
like back in like these days, you took a screenshot of a game, it's what the game looked like, you know. So yeah, I looked at it and thought, oh, that looks kind of messy. Don't know, but actually, I was really quite impressed. I quite enjoyed it. I didn't get very far. I didn't play it very often, very long, but I was quite impressed.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to me, it was average, a little bit below
Yeah.
average, mediocre, I guess. It's not horrible. I mean, you can get through it.
Mhm.
Unlimited continues, so there you
Yeah.
go. And there are power ups. So what makes RYGAR different than like Contra or any of the other side scrolling action games is he's got this weapon that's kind of a shield.
Yo
Like,
yo.
yeah, it's kind of weird. It's called the disc armor, and in this version of the game, you can get power ups kind of off, like scattered throughout, and they're nice. But when you die once, they disappear, and this is a one hit kill game, and you'll die often.
Yeah,
So
that's the one. Like, I was like, ooh, this nearly got a B, but it's the one. I mean, like one hit kills. Yeah, they have a time and a place, but I feel this game isn't. It's not quite forgiving enough for that one hit kill.
all right, comments, thoughts on Rygar. Um, our friend Sean697 says, back in the day I would have wanted this. I remember playing the NES game and thinking this is nothing like the arcade. Why did they add all this stuff to slow the game down and make it confusing? Maybe better reasoning has prevailed now, but at the time, the console standard was how closely could your game match the arcade, going back to the 2600. I guess Sega was always more of an arcade style system. Maybe it's why I bought it. That mindset was kind of broken later on, but I do enjoy simple arcade gameplay. Um, so yes, and I totally get what you're saying there, Mr. Sean. Let's see. Ooh, Fiery Rain is back.
Yay!
Haven't seen him in a while. So you finally warmed up to the NES version, DC. Yeah, I gave the Rygar like a B minus, I think, back in the day. Good to see you're still going strong with this project. Your writing is getting ridiculously exceptional. I've missed a lot here.
You
That's
have.
very nice. Very sweet. So
Subscribe, tell people, retweet,
yes.
Patreon, all the above.
Thank you, sir. uh, Tony Wilkins. Here in the UK, we have a catalog company called Argos, and working for them is as brutal as this game sounds. Are you familiar with them?
It's Argos.
Argos,
Yeah.
excuse me. So you are familiar with them.
Yeah, big company.
Big, yeah.
Yeah.
If they're big, then they probably are pretty brutal, I would imagine.
Oh yeah.
All right. Next up, after Rygar, we have Blade Eagle 3D. Another 3D game.
Christ.
And I would say the worst one, I think, so far.
The worst 3D game?
Oh, well, okay, sorry. Space Harrier. Ha ha. Yeah, that's right.
I was going to say.
So quick to forget.
Yes. It's easy.
Pretty close, though. This one's up there for me.
Yeah, I didn't like this either.
Really hated this game.
No.
The 3D. See, before when I'd play 3D games, I'm like, okay, my glasses aren't working that well. This game, I'm quite confident that the 3D just doesn't work that well. It's blurry. It looks like you got double vision the whole time, and it's just not. It's just one of Sega's boring shmups. I don't know how else to say it. Like, yeah, there's just not a lot going on.
No,
there's so much blue. I just got bored with being like over the ocean or something. Like I don't know. As a shooter, it's subpar at best. As a 3D shooter, stay far, far away from it.
Oh yeah,
that's all I have to say.
It's funny you mention how poor the 3D is, because the first comment Johnny Scott actually says, "This is one 3D game that did not work well with the glasses back in the day. I remember the ship would be duplicated on the screen, and I could not properly see where I was, as if I was able to dodge the incoming bullet." So I think looks like, yeah, you're pretty much spot on. The 3D doesn't really work.
Yeah, which makes me feel better about not having the best 3D glasses in the game. And if I'm not mistaken, I think after this game, there's only a couple more 3D games. So I'm very happy about that. Outrun 3D, and then I think one more after that.
Outrun. Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious. Well, one of the commenters in the last, I think Garrett CRW, said that it was a horrible game. So
it's very slow.
Very slow. Yeah. Kind of expected that. Yeah. So yeah, Blade Eagle 3D. Another reason why this game is awful is because, and this is, they were trying to get the 3D going, so keep that in mind, but you can switch between the background and the foreground, like your ship, but it doesn't work. Like it just looks like, I don't know. It looks like you just kind of, no, exactly. You kind of sink almost. And then the other thing, I don't know if you noticed this, is there's certain enemies that like can only hit you on the foreground, right? Like, so they're shooting at you, and if you're in the background, they can't hit you. But there are other enemies that can hit you on either plane.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait a second. No. That's not how these types of games work. Like, so
yeah,
I thought
that was confusing the hell out of me. That one was. I kind of thought the game was broken.
That's how I felt too.
You never know. It might be. It might be one of those bugs that they just thought, it'll make it more challenging. It's not really a bug, and we'll leave it in there.
Incidentally, this is the 3D game I paid the most for.
Really?
Yeah.
How much was that?
So I was like $12 or $13.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I mean, it could be worse, obviously, but yeah, I still didn't. I will be selling it, needless to say.
Yes.
So yeah, gave this bad boy a D, and deserves every penny. Let's see what Mr. Tony has to say. First off, it's good to see the Western covers are getting better. Not bad.
Okay.
Second, this game, like many 3D games, makes the mistake of putting 3D glasses on you when the game itself doesn't suit it. Why would you need a top-down 3D shooter? Good point. Games like Zaxxon, or even racing games like Hang On and Outrun, where you are behind the vehicle/spaceship, are best suited to 3D.
Yep.
At least in the 8 and 16-bit eras. Spot on there, Mr. Wilkins. For games like this, I just see 3D as the gimmick it is, or was. He basically wrote my review in like a paragraph. So very good. All right. So moving on to
oh my god.
Sam's favorite game. We're gonna say it in Japanese, and then we're gonna give the English translation here. Hoshi wo Sagashite, searching for the stars, or as it's known in translating communities, the story of Mio. Yeah, it's an adventure game.
Yippee.
Yeah.
Mm.
So, at what point did you? I'm just curious. At what point did you turn this on, Sam, and just go, you know what? We're done here.
I turned it on and went, "That's not Pikachu," and turned it off.
Well, that's true. It's not Pikachu.
um, it's like it's this like weird like gummy bear thing that apparently hatched or something, and I just, uh, I just it looks nice.
It does. It looks
Hmm.
very nice. It looks very like you're watching a cartoon, a Japanese cartoon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I didn't get very far.
Oh, I don't blame you.
I was intrigued. Is there much actual like gameplay?
No, and actually, I wrote on here that uh, it's the first adventure game I've ever played without a real conflict.
Right.
There's no real conflict in the game at all. Like, there's no bad guy. I mean, you're kind of the whole goal is kind of to get the creature that you find back to its habitat, I guess, with other
Yeah.
members of its species. But it's not like you don't feel like any sort of rush to do so. You're just kind of like, oh, I should probably find this guy's parents or something. And
Yeah.
uh, really, what made the game even remotely enjoyable are the characters are just so weird. Like I liked giving little backgrounds to all the characters, like as I would like you can
Right.
one of the inputs is you can hit people, and of course I wanted to hit everybody I could in contact.
Everybody.
So on the website, on the Sega Does website, the first screenshot has this girl saying, "Hey, stop acting like a jerk." That's because I just hit her. So which you should only do in games, not in real life.
Yeah.
But so yeah, there's elements to this game that I thought were fun, and at one point the main character has to get into a drinking contest,
Really?
which is pretty funny. Yeah. Um, and but in general, it's just kind of weird. You know, it's just kind of a weird adventure game. I feel like the adventure games Sega makes are even more obtuse. Like the strands that they want you to put together, like, oh, do this to activate this, make less sense than even games like Shadowgate,
Yeah.
or is it Shadowgate on the NES? Yeah,
Yeah.
Deja Vu,
Deja vu
and
and
yeah, and those types of games. Like, I don't know. I just
mm.
feel like Sega doesn't always do the best job at making their adventure games very crystal clear, but this one is think of it like, what's your favorite show? What's your favorite show, Sam?
My favorite what TV show?
Yeah,
Oh,
sitcom or something.
oh god. You probably trying to think of something you would know.
Well, we both like The Simpsons, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so it's
Well,
like a later
liked.
episode of The Simpsons. Yeah, liked.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a later episode of The Simpsons that you accidentally catch, and you're like, "Oh, that was kind of funny. It had a couple laughs,"
Yeah.
and then you promptly forget about it. You know,
Okay.
you just
Yeah.
that's this game. It's
Season
like,
7 onwards. Okay.
but yeah, more or less. Uh, so surprising amount of comments on this one, seeing as I
Yeah.
didn't think anybody had heard of it. Or
I don't know.
so Fiery Rain says, "There's a fan translation for this game?" Question mark. To which I replied, "Yeah, buddy," and gave him the link.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Peter Jan returns. I will try to summarize. Uh, oh, maybe I can't. Oh, here we go. Well, he says that the near absence of console adventure games in the West, despite Sierra and LucasArts games dominating the PC market at that time, seems to indicate that the cultural component might not be the main culprit here. In other words, that my complaining about the adventure game itself might just be because, you know, Americans didn't really get that many console adventure games, which I agree with.
Yeah, I mean that's more a product of the actual hardware itself, but more
Right,
actual like memory constraints.
right. Because I mean, well, I don't know if Sega had figured out. I don't think they had. They haven't put a battery backup in one of their
Yes,
games
we
yet.
have had a battery backup.
Oh, which one? Remind me. Oh,
Penguin,
Fantasy Star.
Fantasy
Duh.
Star,
Yeah,
but there
yeah.
was one before then. Was it Penguin Land? I can't remember. There was one.
Miracle Warriors. That other RPG. That was awful.
Yeah, I swear there was like a stupid game that you wouldn't think there was. I will look it up and find it out. But no, yeah, there has been battery backup before.
Okay, so they have the power. They just don't do it all the
No,
time.
no.
So, but games. Well, this is a really short game.
Hmm.
As our Well, that's not true. Not all adventure games are short, but this one is really short. Like I think I used the FAQ, granted, but I beat it in like 30 minutes or something.
Wow.
So
Sure.
I've heard that even if you don't have an FAQ, you could probably figure it out in like about an hour. But um, so it's clear, and even I mean, just look at the cover for that. Like, how would they even begin to translate that for a Western audience? Like,
No idea.
yeah. So I understand why Sega didn't bring it over here. Absolutely, 100%.
Hmm.
Um, so that's Hoshi Wo.
Yeah,
Hoshi Wo, Story of Mio. Um, all right, moving on. I'm gonna let you talk about this one because you
oh,
really enjoyed it.
I did.
Uh, but let me butcher the Japanese name first.
Yeah,
Solomon no Kagi, Oujo Rihita no Namida.
brilliant.
Solomon's Key.
Solomon's Key.
Yeah.
Well, I don't show off, don't criticize. I'm just living by my own feelings, and I won't give in, won't compromise. 'Cause I only have a steadfast heart of gold. I don't know why I can't leave, though it might be tough, but I ain't out of control, 'cause living by my word. Don't ask me
Now,
why.
full disclaimer: I'd never played this game before.
Oh, this is your first time.
My first
Nice.
time.
Nice.
Portal has nothing on this.
Yeah, this is a great, great game.
This is a great game.
Yeah.
Just like this is. I hate going on about it because everyone always goes on about it, but everyone goes, "Oh, Nintendo, they never have new characters," and then like Nintendo fanboys go, "Well, what Nintendo do is they think of really great mechanics and then they apply it to one of their existing characters and then really use it really well." This smacks of a Nintendo game. The fact that I've got this mechanic of creating blocks, destroying blocks, and that's basically it. And then they make this whole game around it.
Yeah.
You know,
It's brilliant.
it's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Just and like it's I got like I wouldn't say stuck, but there was like a 10-second period where I was like, right, I had to like destroy a block. It was like one of the first two levels, like below me, and
Hmm.
before then, all I'd had to do is like destroy a block in front of me or at the side of me, and it's like, well, how do I do this? And it's like, well, the controls like, well, maybe it's just like down and that, but I don't stand on top of it, like stand there, and it was, and it's just very intuitive and very simple. Um, it should be a Nintendo game. It really should.
Well,
It should be
it
like
is.
Kirby. Well, yeah, it should be like Kirby's Block Adventure, or something like
Oh, I get you.
you
Like
know what I
Nintendo
mean?
should have made this. I
Yeah.
got you. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I just it's just the fact they've taken this concept and blown it out of the water. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it's a great. And I'm sad that they didn't bring this to the States.
Yeah.
They
That's
just
amazing.
they could have, because there's no text. I
No.
mean, they didn't need to translate anything.
The cover is really cool.
The cover's cool. Yeah, they just didn't.
Mm.
Incidentally, failed to mention this back on RYGAR, but RYGAR and Solomon's Key are two games published by a third party and developed by a third party, and as I think they're actually the first two we've had that are both
Yes.
published and developed by a third party.
Yes,
Salio or Sadio probably.
Yeah.
A very mysterious corporation. Nobody really knows what they're about, because they've only made these two games, which makes people think kind of like Ultra and Konami.
Right. It was somebody else.
Somebody else, yeah.
It was Nintendo.
Yeah, very
So
very
obvious.
well could be. So I love this game too. I'm glad we're on the same page with this one.
I didn't get very far, but I've got a save that I'm going back to.
This gets hard, like real
I'm just
fast.
looking at some of these screenshots. I'm like, damn, it's. I didn't like. Sometimes I didn't like how it like made you climb up quite a long way before you actually like got into a puzzle, like actually got anywhere. It'd make you like make your own little staircase real quick.
Oh,
That
yeah.
kind of bugged me sometimes, but you got to give and take a little bit. I'm struggling to think. I think this might be like. I'm not saying it's like the most enjoyable game I've played so far, maybe, but it's the best. It's the best.
Like
game
a surprise
concept.
kind of thing.
Well, no, like the best game concept. I think like original. It's not just a platformer, and it's not just a space shooter. It is a kind of a platformer as well, because you do have to jump. You have to.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not the most accurate jump in the world, but it's it's there, and because you walk into a room and you go, oh god, there's a door up there. How the hell? And then you start moving around and you find key and you find it's just. It does a lot without explaining a lot, and that is the key to a good game. You should just
exactly.
It's like a child, like learning how to. I suppose learning how to walk's a bit much, but like a child learns through play and experimentation, as most people do. Like, cause you can't teach it because it doesn't know what you're saying,
right?
And you can't, it can't understand you. And so, but it learns things just somehow, It's kind of a weird mystery. And this is the same sort of thing. You just play around, and it kind of happens, and it's a weird thing. Like like movies and video and written text mediums, you don't kind of get that. But in games, sometimes you can get this lovely creative thing, like I don't want to say experience, that's wrong. It's more of just like a happening, and
yeah. I think it happened more back in
well, yeah, obviously
these days.
Yeah,
because I mean everything has tutorials now, and even Nintendo games,
well, I think the problem with games now is like you don't get that much, because I know it's a weird thing to say, and I've never heard anyone really mention it, but I've got a theory about like the 3D camera kind of destroyed games, because everything you do now in a game is governed by a 3D camera. It's governed by a 3D space, and within that space, everything is governed with what you can see, and it's always with this 3D camera. So virtually, that is a very strange concept to wrap your head around. Virtually every single game is exactly the same. Right? Because you've got this camera looking at what you're doing. Now, back in the day, basically because you have this like page, basically, you could just like draw on it and draw your idea down.
That's true.
You could draw anything you wanted.
Yeah.
And it would, you could work out the mechanics around that. But nowadays you're governed by this. Whatever you do, there has to be a camera looking down on this space.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, it's a weird concept to grasp. If you sit and think about it, I think people will understand. But it's you can't. It's odd. You have to have a camera.
You're more limited, right?
Oh
You're
yeah,
more
very
limited
much
with
so.
the
Yeah.
3D.
Yeah.
And which is ironic, right? Because people are like, "Oh, 3D opened up games," but
It didn't really. It opened up movement, let's say.
right.
It didn't open up games. If it limited games because you could go forwards and backwards, and that was it.
Well, part of the issue with games now that I think, and I don't like to give indie games credit, but the good ones do this, is restraint and like basically having like not having every great dev kit or dev tools like at your disposal is a good thing. Basically
Yes.
being limited.
It is.
Being
Being
limited.
limited is fantastic.
Right, because it really forces you to be creative. Whereas if you have, $100 million budget and, all this stuff, I mean, it's just like the movies now, right? If you have, a couple $1 million, some decent no-name actors and a good script, you can make some awesome things happen. If you have $300 million, you make the Avengers and it might still be good, but it's just the Avengers,
And it's like I always liken it to the Alien films, right? In 78 or 78, 77.
Yeah, late 70s.
When
yeah.
Alien 1 came out, right? Number one, you had to go to the cinema because you couldn't watch it at home.
Right.
But people went to the cinema, and it's the same with Star Wars, right? And big like Close Encounters and all that.
Right.
You had to go to the cinema to see this because it had never seen it before, because it couldn't have been done. And you'd never seen that alien before. You'd never seen something burst out of somebody like
That's
that.
true.
Right? You'd
Yeah.
never seen a spaceship land and a person walk out of it. You know?
Yeah.
In one shot, no cutaway. You'd never seen two suns in the sky. There's all these things you'd never seen. And it's like Jurassic Park. You'd never seen a guy walk along, get eaten, and thrown around in one shot. Okay? No cutaway, no nothing. And you had to go see it. There was no way of getting around it. And it's kind of like when Mario 64 came out. You had to play it because you'd never seen it. And like when Mario World came out, the amount of colours, the amount of worlds, like you could jump on things, throw things up in the air, the physics,
fly. With the cave.
You had to do these things because they'd never been done before. Now, I don't think there's anything you could. I mean, maybe I don't personally think it's going to work, but maybe that's what VR is going to do next, like the Oculus and stuff like that. Is you've never done that before. You've never been in a world. And that'll be the next thing. But at the minute, there is nothing you've seen on a screen that you haven't seen somewhere else.
Right. I agree with that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's sad, really.
Sad.
I mean, because I feel like kids who are, 10, 8, 10, 12, whatever, in that time period where you should be having all sorts of new experiences, right? Well, they've already had all their, like, technology wise, they're familiar with tablets and well, it's weird. I was quick aside that does tie into this story.
Yeah.
I was telling my wife, because she was not feeling well last night, we went to urgent care, and I was like, it's really funny. We were just waiting in the waiting room, and I was like, it's really funny. I looked at, like, at home, I looked at my phone, I looked up urgent care Austin. My phone, Google, brought up, like, all these urgent cares within, like, 10 minutes of us.
Yeah.
And said which ones were closed, how far they were, if one was closing soon. I mean, it was crazy, like the detail.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it's a handheld device. Like,
it's nuts.
I don't want to lose that sense of, like, that's crazy. Like, that is futuristic.
That is,
but
yeah.
but we're so used to it that
Yeah, but that is literally over the last 5 years.
I know.
That is, people have got so. And you take that away from people now, they would flip out.
Oh, when I mean, I think we've all had experiences where like we've accidentally broken a phone or had
Oh,
to lost a phone for
I
a day
know.
or two.
It's bad.
You're debilitated. You can't do anything.
Mm.
And so anyway, all our how do we get on these old man, I swear, but you do make some good points though about I would really like to have maybe a separate podcast, maybe when we get closer to the Saturn or something. I don't
Yeah.
know, but like just talking about how the 3D camera really it
Yeah.
changed gaming, absolutely, but it also limited gaming.
Yeah, it focused people's attentions. Like once you're in a 3D world, you have to have an object and it has to move around, and that's pretty much it. That's all you can do. You have to push something around.
Yeah, and that's fascinating. I've never heard that argument before, and I think it could
Well,
use
what
some
else are you going to do?
strength.
That's all you can do.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
when you think about it, what else can you do in a 3D space? I mean, whether it's a person walking around, whether it's a car, whether an animal, whether you're under the sea, all you're doing is pushing something through a space.
No, that's true. That's very
But on a
true.
2D plane, there is so much more you can do. You just
Yeah.
basically got this canvas. You can just go.
Well, thanks to Solomon's Key for inspiring this
Yeah.
conversation. I'm going to read a couple comments here that I like. Glitched, who I believe is new to the blog, so thank you. Welcome, Glitched. If only the game was more like the box art. Solomon's Key, giant mutant scorpion's tears has a nice ring to
it
it.
looks like looking at that looks like Castlevania meets Bloodborne.
The big old
And
like
I want to play
lobster
that. I want to
scorpion
play
thing.
that.
Bloodborne.
Well, Castlevania meets Bloodborne.
Oh, Castlevania meets Bloodborne. That would be pretty cool.
I do want to play Bloodborne. I still have not got around to it. Destiny is sucking my time real bad. I don't mind.
All right. Sean697 says this is one of the very, very few titles that shared a release on the NES and Master System. You know what I find refreshing? That there is very little crossover between systems. Both systems, for the most part, have a unique library. You don't really see that much anymore. It is mostly the same games with an exclusive here or there. At least the NES and Master System had their own identity. I agree with that.
Well, Sean should know this better than most people. I mean, that is not a new thing. I mean, I would even argue up to the PS2. If it wasn't for EA, PS2 and the original Xbox would have very, very different libraries.
Yeah, that's true. Well, in the PS2.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, they have very separate libraries. But I bet the only like major cross-platform games was like Midway, maybe some Activision stuff, and EA. They were pumping stuff out on both consoles. But I mean, the Xbox like AAA stuff compared to the PS2 AAA stuff was completely separate. And it's
same with GameCube. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Obviously, don't forget the GameCube.
And the Dreamcast. Yeah, I mean they were all around for a couple years. Yeah,
they were all different, and the PS3 and the Xbox 360 started off like that, but very quickly, like the third-party publisher disappeared, and people realized this is not sustainable. We can't do this anymore. You can't have platform exclusives at the same rate you used to have them. They're not selling.
Well, and they're too expensive. Like it makes more sense to, like with Final Fantasy 13, that was originally a PS3 exclusive, and then the PS3 wasn't selling.
I couldn't believe that went on 360. That was unbelievable.
And the fact that it was such rubbish,
yeah,
that's right, rubbish.
Yes,
I went there.
It's terrible. It's a shame because the battle system in that is so good. It's just everything around it is terrible.
That's how I feel about a lot of Square games. Yeah. Post their PS1 amazing era.
Go on then. What's the last good Square game?
Oh, actually developed by Square?
Yeah.
Uh,
Sorry, the last good Square RPG. So
well, I can't say because I haven't played
yeah.
Bravely Default. I haven't played some of these newer ones that have come out that have actually gotten decent
Okay,
scores.
what's the last good Final Fantasy?
Oh, well, for me, I guess it would be 9. I
Mm-hmm.
really like 9 a lot. I didn't like 10. Again, the characters. See,
Yeah.
it's not. I have nothing wrong with the game. Nothing.
No,
Same with 12. I'd have nothing wrong with the game. I
it's the
cannot
characters.
stand the characters. I don't care about the plot. Why am I playing this game
No,
at all?
I don't even think it's the plot. I think it's the characters, and it's the fact that you can hear them.
That yeah, no, you're right. That's exactly why. It's
You if the plot was, I mean, to be honest, right, the plot in the plot in 8 is pretty terrible, but the plot in
oof.
7, and you could probably even say 6, is pretty silly.
Yeah, I mean it's
Really.
not the most original.
No,
That's
but
that's a good point.
what
Yeah.
you do when you're reading stuff, you put the emotion, you put the emphasis, you put all the charisma and the character into the characters yourself. You build original RPGs yourself in your head,
Right. Right.
and you make them as good as you want them to be. So if you've spent 90 quid on a copy of Final Fantasy 3 for your Super Nintendo, you're going to make that game pretty damn good in your head. Okay,
Exactly. Yep.
so people, I'm not saying this, like, secretly all Final Fantasies are terrible, because I'm not going to say that, because they're not. But people need to realize that they made those games as good as they are in their heads,
Yeah.
because you had to read it and you had to emphasize like the emotion the characters were saying, and you know your mind can do very powerful things, and it made those games better than they really were.
Well, there's some brave souls out there who play those games and enjoy them despite the fact that the characters are awful. And I don't people I trust and like their opinions on games most of the time like some of those games, and
Mm.
I will at some point get to talk to them, Lord willing, and sit down and be like, so how do you put aside, like, you're a smart person, so how do you put aside the fact that these characters are poorly written,
Mm.
poorly conceived, not at all. I mean, obviously, Final Fantasy not supposed to be realistic, but it's like, how
No.
about I'm supposed to care about the characters, and
Mm.
who could care about these characters? Like nobody, in my opinion. Like they're awful, poorly written characters, and yet how do you persevere through that? Because I can't do it.
No.
It's like I can't. I
10,
have to.
10 was the first one that took its toll on me. I got about 20 hours in, and I was like, I can't do this. I don't care.
Right.
Why I don't. This guy's a douchebag. She's got. This guy's a douchebag. That guy just, like, there was like a really in-depth religious undertone in that game. Very
Yeah.
in-depth. And it's like, this guy is banging his head against this brick wall of his religion, even though this guy has just proved that it's all bollocks, right?
Right.
And the guy's just like, nope, I'm still gonna believe, and that's how he is for like the whole game. And it's like, you wouldn't be like that, and he throws a ball at a lizard and it dies. Anyway, but
Final Fantasy X throws a ball at a lizard and it dies.
that's pretty much the game.
Tagline.
Yeah.
All right, let's
We got-
finish this off. I'm starting to feel jittery here.
All
All
right.
this the hosting jitters. Actually no, I've actually enjoyed this, and I've enjoyed the conversation quite a bit. But we are on the last game, and
Hooray.
I'm not sure. I don't think you played this one, right?
No, I haven't played it.
Okay, so I'm going to be talking about this
This looks crazy.
as much as I can, because it's kind of hard to describe, I guess, a little bit. Tensei Bakabon. This game is another adventure game. It's a lot better than the story of Mio. I think because the original source material is good. The Tensei Bakabon is based off of a manga and an anime from like the late 60s, and it's continuously popular. It's had series go off and on, like the anime will run for a few years, then they'll come back like a decade later with another brand new series. So the
Mm.
characters are continuously being appreciated by new generations. And as I played the game, even though I couldn't understand what they were saying, I got a feel for their personalities.
Well,
And that's how you know these are good characters.
yeah.
So I actually wouldn't mind. I my plan is to YouTube some of the episodes and see if they have dubs or
All
not
right.
dubs, subs, but
Yeah.
just to see how they are. But um, so I don't know if I really want to go into what the story is. I guess I could. I'm so lazy, right? I'm a lazy host.
Oh yeah.
Basically, it's about a family and a very dysfunctional family. I compare it to The Simpsons in the review because the dad is loud and angry and an idiot, and then there's who's just like Homer, and then there's the main kid Bakabon who reminds me of Bart because he's mischievous and always getting into trouble with his dad, just like Bart and Homer do.
All right.
And then there's the younger brother who is like a super genius who reminds me of Lisa, and then the mom who's always like the supportive mom who's like
Mm.
Marge. So that's how I related to it in my head. And in the game, you play as the dad, and you have to rescue Hajime-chan, who is the younger brother of Bakabon. And what I like is that the game starts off grounded in reality. Like you walk around the town, you talk to different townsfolk, and you try, you get information about where he could be or where to go next, that sort of
Yeah.
thing. And but after a bit, like it just takes a turn for the weird. Like so, once you like, this is the turning point. You walk into a bar, and there's three types of alcohol that you can order: whiskey, beer, and sake. Well, you order whiskey or sake, you get into a fight with the bartender. He throws you out. You go back in, order a beer, and sorry, I'm punching the table.
You are.
And the bartender will give you information on how to get into the sewers, the underground sewers below the town. So how you would ever figure that out, I don't know. But so I did that, and once you get into the sewers, it turns into a platformer.
What?
Yeah,
That's
not
cool.
like not a really in-depth platformer,
No.
but just little bits here and there. And so you run through the sewers, and eventually you find out that Hajime-chan is like crashed in a UFO in outer space, and so now you go to outer space, and it becomes a shoot 'em up.
What?
And yeah, just for like a few minutes.
Oh man,
You
that sounds good.
you pilot a UFO, and then you run around and shoot things, and then you land, and you have to beat the game and find Hajime-chan. You have to solve this really in-depth puzzle, and
Right.
that's it. And it's very surreal, very strange. But I really, like I said, the characters, I couldn't understand a word they were saying, but I just loved how ridiculous they all seemed, and I could tell that this was a funny show, or
Yeah.
and a funny manga, just based on some of especially the dad. The dad's the best. Just, I mean, you can see it in the first screenshot. He always has that pissed look on his face.
Just look pretty pissed.
It's like he's mad at a little kid. It's like, why? Anyway,
Nice art, actually.
yeah, very good, very well done. Looks very, very close to the original art.
Right.
All in all, not a bad game. Only problem, there's no translation for it, so
Oh.
I went along with the FAQ on GameFAQs. That was the only way I knew what to do, but it was worth it. I enjoyed my time, and I have a feeling there's so many more untranslated Japanese games to come. So,
It's funny you mention that because Sut here says I've got to applaud your tenacity to play these Japanese heavy games. It truly makes Sega Does unique. And I think that is a bit weird about us or you as you play all these games. It's like Yep, we're playing all these strange Japanese games that no one else has heard of, purely because somebody's got to document them and give a Western opinion on them.
Right.
And it's quite important, really, because as we've seen before, a lot of these like Japanese only games actually like Mario Brothers and Zelda, and I'm not saying those games in particular, but the big games that we recognise here, actually stuff that they did that we think is so amazing and groundbreaking, actually some Japanese games did like little bits of that before them, you know,
Right.
and
Yeah.
it's like piecing those bits of gaming history puzzles together. I mean, I can't remember what game it was, but there was like a really cool game with a really smart HUD design with like the icons. I can't remember what the game was called,
Hmm.
but I was like, that is the first like item HUD ever,
Yeah.
and it was like
Yeah.
85, 86. It was like, whoa, that's like like Zelda 2 in 88 or like Contra, and it's like this is like 2 or 3 years before. It's like, I mean, no one can say like, oh yeah, or that definitely inspired or they definitely ripped off that.
Right.
But it's just interesting to see, it was actually done there first.
Yeah. And um, I think that like you were saying, like playing these Japanese games or any of these types of games, I think is important because for whatever reason, and I don't understand it because I feel like they could make money doing this, the companies themselves are not willing to put out like overviews
Mm,
of their work, right?
mm.
Like take Konami, who's just
Oh,
turned into the worst company ever as far as their fans are concerned. They could put out a book called Konami, the works of Konami, 1985 or 86 to 1992, and then just put out volumes like that. Okay,
yep,
they could
yep.
have one or two people just chronicling games, and I tell you
They'd
what,
sell
man, I would
millions of copies.
buy those in a heartbeat. Like it would be so cool. But for whatever reason, and like it's not just them, like they're being kind of jerks at the moment, but
Kind of.
it's not just them. It's like even Nintendo doesn't do that.
No.
Why doesn't Nintendo do that? They
You see, what Nintendo does that really annoys me is every now and then they'll give you a little like like a like
little
a
taste.
look, like the Hyrule Historia.
Right,
It's like,
exactly.
look, we can do this, but we don't really want to. It's,
And
"Oh,
that
can't
and
do it." And it's like NES Remix. It's like, here's Volume 1, here's Volume 2, and that's all there's ever gonna be. It's
right.
like, oh, like, what are you doing to us, guys? It's just, uh, they could do it. All of these Japanese I mean, Konami to me at the minute seem like a company that's chasing the big money. Right? They don't want to do a lot of things for a little. They want to do a little for a lot.
For a lot, which is
Okay,
how a lot of them are trying to do.
that
Yeah.
seems to be the new Japanese business model. I mean, the Japanese business model in the 80s used to be pump it out, like stock it high, sell it cheap, get it out there. They
Right.
were pumping games, materials, minerals, fucking Walkmans, you name it. It was coming out of Japan in crates, right?
Yeah.
In the 80s and 90s. Nowadays, what we're gonna do, like we're gonna refine things a little bit, but we're gonna whack the price up, and or we're gonna get people addicted to cell phone games. It's it's
God help us. Yeah.
they want they want to do as little as possible for as much as possible,
Yep.
and they're all doing it. Capcom, Konami, all of them.
Sega. Yeah.
Yeah,
Square.
Sega,
Yeah.
Sega indeed. I mean, they've taken all of their Sega. Actually, was it last week or this week? Have delisted a lot of their like first generation iPhone games like off the App Store,
Right. I
and
heard
they were
that.
they were actually the good ones, right? And the cheapest ones, and they've taken them all
Wow.
down. And now we're left at the minute. I think there's like Sonic Rush or whatever it's called, and Crazy Taxi, and like all the free to pay, or free to pay, free to play, quick make your money, get them back, or like all the decent stuff like the platforms and that all gone. It's like,
Ugh.
what are you
Well,
doing?
here's all right. I don't want to get into a big thing on this because I easily could. I'm going to be civil and say I think these companies should pursue mobile games.
Yes, they
I
should.
think that's smart. I think you'd be a fool not to do that. I also think, unfortunately, that even though Japan has changed their business tactics, they still are very much narrow-minded in that they only think of Japan. And that confuses me. Like, Nintendo doesn't really, but the other companies do, and Square Enix doesn't. Okay, those are the two that I've noticed that don't. They consider their worldwide fan base, which I appreciate. Konami does not consider their worldwide fan base.
No.
They don't care. Sega does not consider their worldwide fan base. Capcom, even Capcom, who I love,
they don't
do it either.
They don't.
And it's like, you guys, do you not understand that? Okay, I'm not a finance, I'm not like a stock market. I'm not an investor. I'm not somebody who knows extensive details of their financial history. But I gotta tell you, they could do a lot better. And what if they just went and said, you know what, we're gonna make 3 indie games this year. We're gonna like slash our console budget in half. We're gonna make really small games, and we're just gonna take it from there. And because it's all about goodwill, right? It's all about goodwill of the consumers. Right now, Konami has taken whatever goodwill they had and pissed on it. Just really pissed on it. And they don't seem to want to rectify that at all. So whatever, more power to them.
The thing that annoys me most is really like most like people like in our demographic, should we say, what we all really want is them to slowly trickle out all their old content and maybe make a new one based on what sells the most. Yeah, basically, right? So what annoys me is if we said to them, right, guys, what we want you to do is we want you to make this game, and we want you to make this game, and we want you to make this game. I could understand them being pissed. The problem is these companies have already made these games, and they exist. They don't have to do anything. All they have to do is publish them. They're all there.
Them.
Just release them. You don't have to do anything.
Right.
It's free money.
Yep.
What is wrong with you?
I
don't understand.
I totally agree.
Don't understand. They've done the work. It's in the bag. You don't have to pay anyone. Stupid.
Yeah.
Stupid. They should get together with Nintendo and publish the lot somehow. eShop, don't care. It wouldn't cost them a thing.
No.
It's all digital. And the file sizes are minuscule.
Right.
You could serve the entire flipping NES, Super Nintendo, N64 back catalogue off a flipping, 64 gig flash card.
Right.
20 years of games. Done.
Yeah. I know. I don't understand.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. I don't understand it either.
I don't know.
But
video games history makes you mad.
It's like, I was gonna actually tweet this today, but I wasn't sure of how to come up with an elegant way to say it. But what I feel like is when I see companies like Konami and Capcom, I don't begrudge them their desire to change for the future, because that's just people do that. Like you evolve, you move on, your taste evolve. Like you like different things. You make money different ways as a business. I get that. What I don't understand is when I see the way Sega's handled their back catalog with just a blatant disregard.
They're the worst.
Or
in terms
Konami,
of back catalog, Sega are the worst.
Yeah. Or Capcom or any of these. Capcom probably not as much as the others.
By the way,
but
did news just in HD remaster of Resident Evil 0.
I know.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
So, but what I was gonna say is, it's like when you're growing up and you see you play all these games and you're like, oh, this is a Konami game. Konami's awesome. Or, oh, this is a Capcom game. And you feel like as you play them, you're like, wow, I can really feel like the developers really loved this game and they really took their time.
Yeah.
Making it. And then you find out more and more about the company as you get older, and you're like, this is just a company like caring about the bottom line. Like, that's all they are, and that's all they ever were. And that's really depressing to me as somebody who grew up with these games and thought maybe this company actually cares about its fan base or its consumers.
Well, see, that is where Nintendo's different.
Exactly.
They give a crap about what they're making. And they don't care if it takes... Like Zelda, there is no way any company in the world, except Nintendo, would not be releasing that Zelda for the Wii U this Christmas.
Well,
not a company in the world.
Can you think of a company that's... I can only think of 2 delays in the last few years. Batman Arkham Knight and The Witcher 3.
Well, yeah.
Those are the 2 delays that I can think of for high-profile games. Everything else has come out, warts and all, from the original release date. Nintendo is one of the last few that will push their game back if they don't think it's good enough.
Yeah, but see, Nintendo push their game back and just say, yeah, we're not happy with it. It's not ready.
Right.
Because their official line was something like, I'm going to try and quote, but I ain't got it in front of me, was like, whilst we was developing it, we found some new possibilities that we thought we could expand on better.
Right.
And that was like their line. They just went, yeah, as we was developing it, we found something really cool out that we could do, and we wanted to do it better. So you're going to have to wait.
Yeah, that's
just
right.
Like, wow. And you know what? That makes me sit back and go, okay, fine. I'm still going to buy it. That's fine.
Right.
Nobody else would do that. Can you imagine Apple going, actually, guys, the iPhone 7 or 6 or fucking 50 or whatever the hell it's called, right, it's not quite what we want. We're going to wait another 6 months. Yeah, right.
Yeah. No.
No. No.
They've got billions on the line.
It's like
billions.
the 1 year, and it will happen soon, where Activision goes, actually, guys, this year's Call of Duty, we're going to wait a year. Yeah, right. That's not that's not happening. I mean, to be fair, actually, last year they didn't release a Need for Speed, which was the first time in, I believe, 11 years.
Whoa, that's crazy.
I'm pretty sure it was a decade plus that they hadn't released a Need for Speed game.
That's crazy.
Since Need for Speed Underground, which I believe was 2003. Yeah, I think it was. They've released a Need for Speed every single year for at least 3 platforms. And last year they went, nah, we're going to leave it a year. And now they've just announced that they are rebooting it again. So they've had like a proper a wait. And I'm pretty sure this next Need for Speed will be the best Need for Speed there has ever been, because they've given it that extra time to sit and wait. And the games industry needs to teach people to wait, because at the minute people aren't used to waiting, and that's why they're getting pissed when all this stuff is getting released and it's broke.
Right.
Because people are afraid to release it late, because the last console generation, people didn't wait.
Yeah. Well,
like, I can remember in PlayStation 2, like when Metal Gear 2 got pushed back, you know, that was supposed to be out 6 months before Christmas, and we had to wait till February. You know, it's stuff like that got pushed back all the time back then.
Yeah.
Nowadays, like during the 360, people got too comfy.
Well, people are entitled. That's the problem. People are entitled.
They're entitled to be entitled. That's the problem.
Well, and developers are afraid of not making the bajillions of dollars that they need to make to keep running.
Well, they have to now. That's the problem.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
We're old dudes. Okay.
Yeah. And speaking of old, I've got to use the restroom really bad. So let's end this awesome episode of Sega Does, hosted by yours truly. And I just want to say thanks to Sam for letting me take the reins on this one. And I hope I will do it again in the future. I'm sure I will when he's too tired and doesn't want to deal with it. So, so yeah, thanks very much. And until next time, Sega.
Sega.